I'd like to call to order the Planning Board meeting for July 7th, 2020. My name is Carrie Martinek. I'm the chair of the Planning Board. I'm going to read a notification before we get started. This open meeting of the Planning Board is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of COVID-19 virus, the town of Northborough has been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. All members of the planning board are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. This order allows the planning board to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Members of the public who wish to view the live stream of this meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link listed on the agenda, by tuning into CAT TV government channels, Verizon Channel 30 or Charter Channel 192, or by visiting the town's website and going to the Department of Cable Access Television and click What's Playing Live. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. Now I'd like to confirm that the board members and persons anticipated on the agenda are remotely present and can be heard. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. So let's see, we have Anthony Zaitin.
Here.
Millie Milton.
Here.
Amy Paretsky.
Here.
Okay. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Kathy Joubert.
Here.
Bob Frederico.
Here.
Okay. And we have no anticipated speakers on the agenda. So in terms of ground rules for the meeting, we do not have speakers, so I don't need to cover those ground rules. There's no comments tonight. I will note that each vote taken by the board will be conducted by a roll call vote. There are no public comments, so no ground rules to cover there. And I think no executive session, so I think we are all set. Okay, great. Welcome, everybody. The first item on our agenda is the election of officers. So we welcome back Millie Milton and Amy Paretsky to the board, who were recently re-elected for, well, Millie elected. You were previously filling a vacancy for a year, and now you join us for a 3-year term. And Amy Paretsky, you come back. Is this your third round?
Third term, yeah.
Okay.
Time flies.
Yep. So Amy has returned again for another 3-year term. So as part of that, as we kick off this year, we'll start with the election of officers. So are there any nominations from anyone on the board for the chair of the planning board?
I nominate Carrie Martinek for chair of the planning board.
Is there a second?
I second.
Is there any discussion? Okay, so we'll do there's been a motion made and seconded that's for nomination for Carrie Martinek, which is me, to continue as chair of the planning board. So I'll take a roll call by signaling aye, if you agree. Anthony Zaitin.
Aye.
Millie Milton.
Aye.
Amy Paretsky.
Aye.
And Carrie is an aye. Next, we need to elect a vice chair of the board. Are there any nominations for a vice chair of the board?
I'd like to nominate Amy Paretsky for vice chair.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, so we will vote. There's a motion for Amy Paretsky as vice chair of the board. I will ask for you to confirm with an aye, if you agree. Anthony?
Aye.
Millie?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
And Carrie is an aye. Now, do we actually have a clerk on the, we never vote for a clerk, do we? Okay.
No, I mean, you can, but there's no need for a clerk. Basically, we have the board secretary, and then any of the public notices that we do, I always have your name as chairman, or have the chairman's name, Carrie.
Oh, okay. All right. I couldn't remember that piece. Getting a little rusty. Okay. So next on our agenda, we have committee assignments and updates. So for this one, we have, let's see, hold on. I have a list here. Okay, so we have for the different planning board committees, we have where we currently are. Anthony, you're currently in open space.
Correct?
Millie, you're in CPC.
Yep.
Amy, you're in groundwater.
Yep.
Michelle is in design review, and I am CMRPC. And then we also have financial planning, and that's Tom. Tom is here until 2022. Is that correct? Tom?
Yeah, those are 3-year terms that you know, that the planning board appoints somebody other than a planning board member to.
And then the
Earthwork.
earthworks, right? That's Fred. Is that this year or next year?
I'm not sure when Fred Philcox is up. I haven't received anything from the town administrator's office, so I think he must have one more year.
Okay. And then I was looking that we also have an appointment on housing partnership. Is that a committee that's functioning at this time?
The housing partnership, no, is I guess you could say mothballed for, I'm sure there's a better word, but but they're not meeting at this time. I think, you know, eventually that may be something that comes out of the master plan that was talked about in the master plan, but not right now. There isn't anybody on the committee.
Okay, so I guess first, why don't we cover our committee assignments? And then there are just a couple of things I want to point out and just see if we need to fix them at all. Just some things on the town website. So first, why don't we start with any conversation or discussion on current board positions? Oh, I do want to add, I did reach out to Michelle. She's not here tonight. So I wanted to make sure that I had an understanding of where her interests are so that we didn't just assign her to something that she wasn't interested in. And Michelle expressed that she would be interested in maybe moving off of design review committee and doing something like CPC. So I don't know, Millie, that's obviously where you are now. So I don't know if design review is an interest of yours, but just for board discussion in terms of thinking of our different spots. Are there any comments or thoughts on committee assignments? Anthony, how do you feel about your open space spot?
You know, I probably only have been to, I don't know if it's been more than 2 meetings. And I find it interesting. I wouldn't mind staying on unless somebody else is interested.
Okay. Millie, any thoughts on where you've been?
Yeah, it's similar. We only had, I think, maybe 3 or 4 meetings, so I felt like I was just kind of getting a handle on what they do.
Mm-hmm.
So, but if Michelle would like to switch, I wouldn't be opposed to that either.
Amy, what are your thoughts on your groundwater?
Yeah, I just have a year under my belt on groundwater and I've learned a lot. There are some things I'd like to bring up about groundwater, so I'm hoping we can add it to a future meeting, but I'd be okay staying on it.
For me, I do really enjoy CMRPC. I don't know, but of course, if somebody were interested in it, it's a good opportunity, so I'd be willing to give someone else a chance. But that's been really interesting for me. I've really enjoyed it. I actually think we may have, I don't know, Kathy, we'd have to double check. I thought we had, I don't know if we have 2 or 3 spots on it. We may have 2, obviously there's a selectman spot. And do we have an alternate delegate spot? Do you remember?
I believe it's through the selectmen that they have a sort of a person at large that they have appointed in the past. But but I'm not entirely sure on that, Carrie, because I've only just always taken care of the planning board
Yeah.
aspect of it. So, I can double check with, staff, at Central Mass the next couple of days.
No, it doesn't sound like there's a huge rush based, if anybody, is anybody really interested in CMRPC at all in general?
Nope.
You can always attend. I can always bring you with me. Okay, so it sounds like most people are willing to stay. I guess the one outlier would be just continuing the conversation on design review. Is that something, Millie, that would be of interest to you? So in design review, the planning board representative chairs the committee. So,
Ooh,
maybe in that case,
that's kind of big.
yeah, so I wonder if it would be help. Have you ever attended one of their meetings in the past?
No.
So I wonder if it'd be beneficial to go to a couple of those meetings and then see, like, could we decide at a later date, Kathy, to make that assignment, just so
Yeah.
we can make sure that that's even something she's interested in and
Yeah,
feel
absolutely. We're probably going to have a meeting coming up in at at some point in July, Millie. So I haven't set it, or I haven't figured out a date yet with the committee, but that's an email that will go over the next couple of days. So I'll include you in on that email.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure, Millie, I'm sure you're aware, but those meetings typically take place in the morning.
I think they're Wednesday mornings, if I remember.
Well, they used to be on Friday mornings.
Okay.
It's really whatever the committee wants to do. Historically, it's been on a Friday at 8 or 8:30. That seems to go back and forth as to what time on a Friday. Right now, I think we need to stay away from Fridays because staff isn't in the office on Fridays because they're still on a cleaning schedule here that uh, um, they want the majority of people out of the office, out of the building, I mean. So, it's really, we can pick whatever day of the week works for folks.
Okay.
Okay, so Millie, if you can attend and see what you think of that responsibility and committee in general.
Yep.
And then do we need to take a vote on the committee assignments, or is that just kind of an informal?
No, I think you should, just to memorialize it, you can take a vote and we'll just leave design review committee and CPC as is right now.
Okay.
Is it?
Okay. So is there a motion then to maintain our previous committee assignments for the time being?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, I'll do a roll call. Anthony?
Aye.
Millie?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
And Carrie's an aye. So then maybe we'll let a month or two pass and then revisit. We can put it back on the agenda to revisit. And then Michelle will be here too. So then that'll be good that you can kind of have a discussion about it to see, make sure that works for everybody.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, the things I wanted to mention were, so there's a list of all the boards in the town, and design review isn't on the list. So I don't know if we can just reach out to somebody to add it on there. It basically puts like all the members on it. And the other thing is we never did the set up the rotation. And now that we're heading, we just keep forgetting or running out of time.
I know that. Yep, you're right, Carrie.
So I don't know. I think maybe when Michelle gets back, that's something we can bring
Okay.
her to the loop with, because I'm really not, she would be probably most familiar.
What is the rotation?
It had, remember I think it was last year's town meeting. When we switched around the membership a little bit,
Oh, okay.
and then the board talked about, having like staggered terms.
Okay.
And so how when and how do we start that? And town council had given us some guidance on that, and it's just again a matter of memorializing it. So I'll pull that information out, Carrie.
Okay, and then so maybe when Michelle gets back, we can figure out that rotation. If Is there someone to just ask about adding it on the website or?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'll take care of that. I'm shocked that it's not on there. I believe you, but
Well, I'll send you the link. I'm looking because I was just trying to look
no
at it
no no no.
before.
I like I said, I believe you. Um, but that's on me if they're not on.
Okay, well, no big deal. It's just there's not a huge crowd rushing to join it, but
But we'll get it on there.
all right. Okay, thank you. Okay, great. So that covers committee assignments. Any other comments on that, or is that good?
I'm good.
Okay, great. Next on the agenda, we have zoning amendments, town meeting discussion. So let's get started with that. So Kathy had sent out our proposed zoning amendments, sort of like, this would work as a handout, Kathy, what you created?
Yes, this is what I'm proposing, and if obviously if anyone wants to make any changes, but it's a sort of a combination of script for all of you, and also a handout for the table, that people will grab as they walk into town meeting. So I sort of just pulled out each one of the articles, just what I thought were the pertinent points that the presenter should make. I didn't, there's probably for each one of you doing your articles, I mean, certainly you can add your own touch. And if you had examples or however, whatever kind of flair you wanted to add to it, but it's pretty straightforward just on what the actual article means.
Any comments in general on this worksheet, cheat sheet?
I don't know, Carrie, if it would be helpful. I mean, I think everyone might have it because I see people looking at it, but I have it if you want me to put it up on the screen.
Oh,
But
sure, that'd be great.
all right, let's try this.
Okay, while you're sharing, so we also have that presentation you did at the hearing. Is that also our presentation for the meeting?
The PowerPoint, no, I had just done that for the public hearing
Okay. Oh,
portion.
that's right. There's no presentation. That's right. I
Right,
keep forgetting.
right. So at town meeting, the reason why we sort of went old fashioned into the handouts was because we're not going to be able to have, any visuals up on a screen.
Okay, and can people access this in advance? It's just a lot to read.
Yes, if tonight, if you if you're okay with this after tonight, what I'll do is we'll put it up on the website, the town's website. There's a town meeting, you know, um, item or agenda item or whatever it's the first thing when you go to the town's website. So I will add it to that, and then we'll have it at town meeting. So now, as far as sharing my screen, David, is that what do you have to do that for me?
I'm not sure.
Oh, I can
you
share.
click on share screen on the bottom of your screen there, Kath?
Right, but then it comes up that the note I have is host disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay. I'm looking for the ability to enable that, and I don't see it. So bear with me just a moment.
Oh, I get that same thing.
Yeah.
All right, well, while David's trying to figure that out, I thought this was great. Thank you for pulling this together because, I mean, my concern, and I don't know if the board shares this concern, is, it's a different environment for everybody. We don't know if it's going to be hot. We don't know if it's going to have thunderstorms rolling in. So I think our time is limited in general. So I think this really helps to condense it. The only other addition I was thinking is if at the bottom of each one, we just put something like one sentence that's maybe, I don't know if intent is the right word, but so that people understand where it's coming from. Like we didn't just like willy-nilly pick out random bylaws and say, let's change this. Like there's maybe one sentence, even though the first one's a bad example because I feel like that's housekeeping. But maybe kennel is we are aligning the town bylaw with state definition of a kennel and moving it out of residential. Like that was our intent. And then I don't know, do you think that helps people or any thoughts on that from the board?
Yeah, I think that does help people because I do think that there are questions about why we're doing this.
Yeah.
And to just sort of sum that up, I do think that is helpful.
Yeah, even sometimes I find the questions that we get, not that we got a ton of questions, but a lot of them, I think when you understand the intent of them, it helps clarify why we're bringing it forward.
Mm-hmm.
Just provide, if you didn't go to the hearings and if you didn't watch over the past year, you'd have no idea other than they're just amendments. I don't know. Any thoughts, Amy or Anthony, about that?
I think absolutely there needs to be some sort of like framework around why we're, proposing these amendments. Otherwise, people aren't going to understand or just think we're just making things up on the fly. But there has to be some reasoning behind it. And I guess that may be delicate in some places too.
Yeah.
So let me suggest this. How about I work on just putting an explanation, a brief, 1 or 2 sentence explanation after each article. And then Carrie, I'll send it to everybody, but Carrie, I'll do any editing through you because we really can't do this as a board,
Mhm.
outside of the meeting. So if there's any edits that you want to make, you and I can just, you can just send them to me, Carrie. But I'll try to do this. I've got a couple of meetings tomorrow afternoon, but I'll do this tomorrow morning, and send it over to you. And then, whenever you can get it back to me. We're bringing material over to the school on Friday. So, it would need to be done prior to that. I don't know what your schedule is for the rest of the
Okay.
week, but
Um,
unless you want to do it tonight as you're
I
sitting here.
wrote down some quick sentences. I'd at least want to understand if the board, what my interpretation of our intent, I just would want to make sure is in line with what the rest of the board interprets that. So my feeling, I wrote down a quick sentence for each of these. I don't know, do you guys mind if
Sure.
maybe I just read it for each one and then you can just tell me,
Sure.
oh, that's really not what we had in mind, or?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, so for Article 38, which I have Millie presenting, Millie, you're still presenting that?
I'm on it.
Okay. I just thought this one was a housekeeping issue. Did anyone feel it was something different? Okay. Um, Article 39 is also Millie. That's the one that I just read that I thought this one, we were just trying to align it to be more in line with the state definition of a kennel and moving it out of residential. Is that correct? Or were there other thoughts on why this came to be?
I would say moving out of residential and adding to industrial, because that adds we also added it somewhere too, and those were the bigger properties. So I don't know, would you mind moving out of residential and adding to industrial, or?
No, I don't mind at all. I just want to make sure, I want to capture what our intent was. So if that, I think we did want to open up the use elsewhere.
And it's still allowed in Business West, but it says that in the bullets.
I think we talked about this before, so we don't have to belabor it. I think one thing people get concerned about, we have probably a lot of dog walkers in town who have a dog walking business and may get nervous. Does this mean I can't have my dog walking business? But I don't think we need to put that down here, or do you think we do that, or we don't necessarily want to state that it doesn't impact dog walking businesses in a document? But I don't think our intent was to run dog walkers out of business. It's just,
No.
yeah.
Because the majority of dog walkers either walk at their client's house, or they walk off leash, or not off leash, but on trails and stuff. I guess I've never heard of a dog walker bringing them back to their house and
Walking them around their yard.
right. So I don't think we'd affect any of the dog walkers that I've seen in town.
Article 40, oh, that's me. So this is the commercial recreation. So that I thought the intent was just to open up industrial to other uses. Do we have another intent for that?
No, I just saw a lot of towns are doing the indoor commercial recreation, whether it's like Sky Zone or the soccer. They're using the big warehouses, and we do have warehouses around town, and some of them are looking for tenants. So this would open it. And there was a person with the gym who came in front of the ZBA, and he said, you know, this is the only town where he needed maybe a use variance to be allowed to do it. So it kind of opened up my eyes, like, oh yeah, a lot of gyms are in warehouses now. So I thought it would be a good use in industrial.
For 41, this is also me. I thought this intent was, as I said before, I think trying to represent the board's original intent was just, it's an interim solution to sort of smooth the transition between residential, where industrial and residential are side by side, just to smooth out that transition a little bit. Not having a tiered industrial zone, it just gives a kind of that interim place where we can just make sure there's not that, I don't know, we seem to have that area, that specific industrial versus residential always seems to clash a little bit. So can we smooth it out? Not that that's not a very good sentence, but I just had, it's an interim solution to help smooth transition in areas where industrial abuts residential neighborhoods.
And the way I looked at it was Northborough Crossing overlay, that's commercial. And everybody was excited to get the restaurants and the stores and everything up there. So the way I look at it is industrial can either be permitted, prohibited, or special permit. So I thought by moving some of them to special permit, it would help with the location, like making sure it's a proper location, which helps with what you're saying. And it also helps with the way I was thinking. You know, it's more of a special permit means, you know, it's allowed, but you have to make sure that use is the proper location for where it's allowed. So I don't know. I guess I looked at it as more of helping with proper location, but I see what you're saying too. I see both. I don't know how I'd word it, but.
All right. Well, we definitely talked about both. Any other thoughts on any of these so far? Sorry, I'm just trying to get through. Let's see. For Article 42, that's Amy.
Yep. I haven't thought of that yet.
This is what I wrote down. I just put for this one, as home occupation evolves over time, the bylaws need to support the original intent to make home occupation sort of unknown or unseen to the neighborhood. So how do we allow people to have a home business without impacting the neighborhood? I felt like this bylaw just tries to tighten that up a little bit because so many more people are working from home and doing new businesses. So new things have come about probably since this bylaw was originally created. I don't know, Amy, I know this is one that you led primarily. Do you have other thoughts, or do you have something different that you think was the intent here?
Yeah, I thought we were tightening, but I also thought we were loosening too. Like I felt we worked as a team because originally it was only allowing one. We increased it to 2. And also with the commercial vehicles, originally only 1 commercial vehicle was allowed on site. And now we increased it to 2. So although we removed the special permits, I felt that we also added in, you know, we also increased some of the what's allowed with the home occupation. So, but I do feel it was, I don't know, like you said, that times are changing and home occupations were supposed to be incidental to, and they're supposed to definitely stay residential as the primary use. So by allowing unlimited increases, it really expanded on what the original use was. So I guess what you said makes sense, you know. I guess Kathy can write that down and then we could tweak it shorter if we have to. I didn't want people to think it's more restrictive because it's really not. We actually increased what people could do without having to go in front of the ZBA.
Any other thoughts on that, Millie or Anthony?
No, I think that sums it up really well.
I agree.
I mean, a lot of that stuff is already in the text that Kathy has here of what we did. It's really just describing, I just want to say why we did it.
Mm-hmm.
And why, can you read it one more time? What
I-
you said?
As home occupation has evolved over time, the bylaws need to support the original intent to make the occupation, the home occupation, unknown / unseen to neighbors. But maybe the real thing is incidental. So, you know, it does need to still be an incidental use.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe what you said, but instead of unknown, unseen, just incidental to the neighborhood.
And at the same time, Bob, we talked about this last time. You're not actively driving around looking to find, you know, 3 commercial vehicles or 2 commercial vehicles. It's a matter of if that comes up, and it's an issue, you need something to reference. But I'm not sure that people get that necessarily. I don't know.
Well, you know, I don't have the time to run around looking for stuff.
Right.
I believe it or not, enough stuff comes to me on its own. So it's usually a complaint from a neighbor, or if it's a home occupation, say like maybe a carpenter, it might be another carpenter who has a little bit of a disagreement, you know, a little bit of a turf war or something like that. So, you know, I get a variety of complaints, but, you know, and then it's my duty to investigate them. But in terms of going around looking for this stuff, I don't have the time, and it would take 3 guys or 3 people, I'm sorry, full time, you know, and it's like another police force, and we don't want that in Northborough.
Mm-hmm.
No way do
But
we
it
want that
gives
in
us
town.
But if someone does call, it gives you a frame of reference. You need something that, you know, dictates what's.
Yeah, I mean, it gives me a little bit more of a frame of reference, but then again, I always have the ZBA as an appeal authority if I was to write somebody up and they didn't like it, or if, you know, I refuse to give them a permit or something like that. So, you know, kind of a backdoor way of saying that, you know, I've kind of always had some sort of a framework, but this a little more clearly illustrates what I have to work with.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Without making it a police state.
Right. Okay, any other thoughts on that one? Okay, so 43, that's you, Anthony. I don't know if you have anything in mind. I wrote something down.
I'd like to hear what you have.
Well, for this, I had trouble making it one sentence. I had 2 sentences. First, I just put it cleans up a disconnect in frontage requirements. And then also that I think we've talked before that a waiver doesn't seem to have the same legally backed criteria for us to make our decision. So like a special permit is outlined in our bylaws, and, you know, it gives us our specific criteria, and that's backed by the courts. And, you know, obviously variances has their own criteria that's backed by the courts, but a waiver isn't necessarily legally backed by the courts, from my understanding. And I think we talked about before. So I think a waiver to some extent can put the board at risk when you don't have a specific criteria. I don't know if that's too much to say about it, or if that people would even, if that helps people to understand it. Any thoughts on that from the board?
I think that sounds good.
Anthony?
I think, you know, I don't know. I don't know if that is going to make it more clear or more fuzzy, but this one I had, you know, I struggled with because I'm not certain what how the best way to present this would be.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think how Kathy outlined it is clear in what it does. I mean, I guess if there's discussion, we can answer questions, or this would just be to throw an intent out so that people could read, you know, for every single bylaw, read something. It doesn't have to be the only thing we say about it. Maybe it's something we can always expand on. Are you reading?
Are you talking to me?
Oh, yeah, I thought you were, you're not, I didn't know if you had something to say.
Oh, no, I mean, yeah, I think in my eyes, this was to just kind of tighten things up in terms of, get out of jail free card, and then, well, I'm going to try to get out of jail every time if that is a possibility, and and constraints on resources and other factors. So, and I don't know how to. I need to come up with a better response to that. But I think the way I look at this is maybe a little bit differently. It's really about just tightening up the zoning bylaws a little bit, because this is kind of loosens things up and it leaves things hanging a bit, allowing things less clear.
Okay, anything else there? Okay, so 44 is Michelle. For this one, I'm concerned about this one trying to make this short, and I'm sure Michelle will do a good job. But I mean, Kathy, I can't believe you boiled down 5 pages into this short of a blurb.
Well, on one hand, I mean, I just kind of chuckled when you when you talked about Michelle having to do this, because um, I was able to shorten everything else, and this one I thought I went on a little bit long, but and I think I was mostly just thinking about the questions that came up a few years ago, which again was a completely different town meeting, and a, a lot of other things on the agenda that got people to that meeting. Um, but I guess I got a little lengthy because I just wanted people to understand, the difference between what they might be seeing in their neighborhood versus what they would see in an industrial district. So I, I can, I mean, Michelle doesn't have to say all that either. I mean, she can, you know, come up with her own summary if she wanted to, but at least it's it's an explanation of, because who's going to sit there and read those 5 pages aside from us on this screen?
Okay, so that's a good question. So when in the actual presentation, because I don't mean physical presentation. Are we reading a motion? Are we reading? We're not just covering this sheet. We've got to make a motion.
Right. You'll each have a motion that you have to sign. I don't think any of that is changing, from prior town meetings. And and the motions this year are actually going to be printed, because again, we're not having, the benefit of any technology at out in the field. But the motions themselves are going to be printed in the warrant.
Okay.
So people are going to be able to see the warrant, to see the motion also as you're reading it. But you each will individually get, um, there's going to be, it's one motion per piece of paper. So one motion per article. So you'll each have that. And on all of these lengthy uh, articles, it refers to, as printed in the warrant. So you're not obviously reading the whole bylaw.
Okay, so that's actually explicitly written in the motion. So
Yes.
we can
Yep.
literally so each of us will get up and literally read the motion.
Yes.
And then so it has to be seconded.
Yes. Yep. And then you'll do your presentation.
Okay. So we read the motion, it's seconded, and then we cover the presentation.
Yep.
And this right here is our presentation to work with.
Yes. And I think as far as tomorrow, I'm not sure what time, but I know that various, staff people, including myself, we were all proofing and double checking our specific articles for the warrant. And that, I believe, is going to go, up on the town's website tomorrow. So you'll get a chance to see your motions there, but as soon as I have your motions, I'll have them printed for you so that I'll physically hand you the paper on Saturday. But I can email them to you in advance.
Okay. So then we cover our presentation, and then the moderator opens it up for questions.
Well, then before he opens it up for questions, he will then ask what was the planning board's vote on the article. And so then you can just, that memo that I had sent you earlier, Carrie, and I can send that obviously to all the board members, but you can just get up and read, for that particular article. Sometimes he reads it himself. I find it a little different each town meeting. So sometimes he'll just read it himself saying the planning board voted, unanimously to support this article. Or sometimes he'll say, what did the planning board vote on this article?
Okay. Then he asked the bylaws committee.
This past year, there hasn't been a municipal code and bylaw committee. There were only 2 people. The other positions were never filled. So we checked with town council about what to do about that town meeting wise. And because there was never a quorum and nobody volunteered, throughout the year to be on the board, there's only 2 remaining, 2 members that the other 3 left after last town meeting. So there won't be, I don't know whether he'll make a reference to them that way or not, but he won't be asking, that board for their opinion.
Okay, and then the moderator opens it up for questions.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, now it's up to him to move it along because obviously, I mean, I don't know patience levels for long discussions, so that'll be on him to move questions along.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I just have a quick question about the bylaws committee. Do they just discuss, when they have enough people on the board, do they just discuss the bylaws or do they research, or what is their purview? Like, what's their job?
I'm not staff to them, Amy, so I don't entirely know. I just am asked to come to one of their meetings, once a year to discuss the planning board articles. But
Yeah.
they look at any changes to the code.
Okay.
All right, so I'm glad we covered that. Just getting back then to the articles, because then when I think about this solar one, this is a big one. But we obviously just dedicated a lot of time to it. So I'd hate for it to be not understood. And like, it sounds like the last solar article did not pass. And Kathy, I guess you outlined this according to why, maybe addressing some of those concerns from before.
Yeah, I mean, that was, in my head, thinking back on what some of the comments were. But again, it's really, on one hand, it's hard to judge anything that failed at that town meeting because it was such a unique town meeting. And I'm not the only one who would say that as far as just the number of people that attended and the reason why the majority of those people were there, and it wasn't for a zoning article. But again, I just the presentation certainly can be shortened if Michelle wants to do that, and then if people have questions, that's where you expand on the explanation. I mean, that's always one way to go, to keep the presentation short. And then if people have questions, we have the information to, whether it's a board member or, myself or Bob, to talk to it.
Okay. All right, so for this one, the sentence I wrote down, I actually needed 2 again. I just put that it supports the green community goals of Northborough, and solar is an exempt use, and we need parameters for site planning and safety. I don't know, something like that. Seems like.
Sounds good.
Yep.
And then I guess Michelle will have to review this, and maybe Kathy, if you ask her if this, or I guess, can I ask her if this looks okay? Or
Yeah.
All right, and finally for Article 45 is also Michelle. I actually thought your first bullet, Kathy, was almost the intent. It almost worked as the exact what I would have written for the intent. And I started to write it, and then I said, wait a minute, Kathy already wrote this in the first bullet.
Well, I just wanted to, and actually, I think you and I, Carrie, talked about this a little bit too, is that, just off the bat, because people are going to see the word hazardous, I think you just want to relay to everybody that this is not promoting, a hazardous waste facility to come to Northborough.
Right. I thought that was great. I don't know if nobody has it in front of them. It just says this proposal is not proposing or inviting a hazardous waste facility or solid waste disposal facility to come to Northborough. It is providing the town protection in case a facility is permitted by the state to locate in Northborough. Maybe the only thing we would just add it's an exempt use. I don't know if that resonates with people or not. But I thought this whole first bullet, I don't know if anyone has anything to add to that.
I think it's perfect. And I don't think anyone would understand if we said it was an exempt use, probably. Some might. But I thought that first sentence is really good. Maybe keep it short and sweet. By then we'll be running out of time anyways, and people will be melting. So we'll just hope it. I just hope we make it this far. I just, hopefully we can make it all the way to 45.
Yeah.
I know. So let's talk about that. So do we prioritize? It's in order. We got to present them in order, right? We can't flip around. One bylaw in particular, I have a concern about because it sounded like it's possible we have an applicant that is maybe relying on this bylaw passing.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like that could be, I don't know, it was just meant, what?
400,
yeah.
400 seater.
Yeah. So not that we work things because of that, but it was, there is some importance to some of these in a priority level, I guess. I guess there's nothing we can do about that.
Well, I think, no, I think at this point it would, my personal opinion is that it would probably be confusing if you, unless you all felt that there were certain ones that you wanted to, pass over or something, or wait for another town meeting. But I don't think, and again, this is my personal opinion, but I don't think time is going to be a problem. I think anyone that shows up on a Saturday morning is going to be, they're serious. They're coming to town meeting. That's very purposeful to me that you're going to, if you're going to make the effort to show up on a Saturday morning. And they're also, they meaning the town moderator and the, I think it's the town moderator and not the Board of Selectmen, but parts of the agenda, they're doing what's called a consent agenda, where they're able to lump certain articles together. So I don't remember, Bob, I don't know if you do or not from a staff meeting, but I think there's probably like 6 or 7 articles, might even be a little bit more than that are going to get passed over or asked to pass over. So right off the bat, we're going from 45 articles to 35 articles. And then about half of that is the planning board and the CPC. So, we're going to do all the budget. Obviously, it's just how the warrant is set up. Budget's always first. So we're going to go through the budget. Then some of the capital items were pulled, and then into CPC and planning board. So I don't think there's going to be the that people will want to come back another Saturday or something to to continue town meeting. I think again, like I said, this is just my observation and my personal feeling more.
If you wanted to piggyback on what you're saying, a lot of the articles that they're talking about consolidating or whatever that term is a lot of the typical housework. It's at every town meeting, setting up your revolving accounts, paying of last year's bills if any be due, appointing the assistant moderator for the town meeting, that sort of stuff. It's kind of boilerplate stuff. It comes up every year. And it's one of these things where everybody just raises their hand just to get it out of the way. So what they want to do is, instead of taking those one at a time, lump them all together, hopefully shave some time off of off the meeting. As John said in the meeting the other day, each of the budgets has to be done on its own. Some towns just, they do it all at once, but Northborough's not wired that way. So it's the budgets, it's CPC funding, and it's zoning is where you're going to be, going one article to the next to the next.
What about, is there a hard stop at noon? Is that correct? There's not?
I don't think so. I mean, I know I saw it noon on the Lions Club sign.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
But so I haven't seen that anyplace else, Carrie.
Okay. Well, in looking at the last two, those are the ones where we, had the consultant come in. We did all that,
Yeah.
years that went into the last two.
Yeah.
We need.
You may have the option, once you get into the block of, once you get into the block of the zoning articles, if you feel some are more, I'm just going to spit it out, some more important than others, so to speak, and you want them to go first because you're afraid of time or weather or whatever like that, you do have the opportunity to ask the moderator to take some of these articles out of order.
That's true.
And it's up for him to say yes or no. Sometimes a moderator will be amenable to it, sometimes you won't, but there is that ability for you to ask if they can take, can we take Article 43 first, instead of Article 38. So it's, that option is there. Whether or not you'll be granted that, it's up to the moderator. It's his meeting to make that determination.
Okay, that's a good suggestion. Let's see. Any other comments on the zoning amendments for town meeting? From
Nope.
board members? Kathy or Bob, anything else?
I was just gonna say, if you can send me, Carrie, if you could just
Yeah.
email me and I'll add that to the handout, and we'll get that taken care of tomorrow.
Okay. Okay, great. So that looks like we are all set. And Bob has promised us a nice day on Saturday, so thank you for that, Bob. Okay, next is on the agenda is any upcoming ZBA applications. It looks like there's no site plans with special permit for planning board. It looks like all continued hearings.
Correct. The 5 Barefoot Road is that, if that moves forward, that will eventually, come to you for site plan. But right now, what they're doing is an appeal of the building inspector's decision. And then the 329, there's two 329 West Main Streets, but the one that was continued to July 28th is a one business that wants to locate at 329. There's space for rent there, and so that is a special permit, I believe, that they are requesting to allow that use. It's a granite countertop business. And then the other 329 West Main Street is an appeal of one of the building inspector's decision. And so that's a new hearing on the July 28th.
Okay, anything else on ZBA applications? Good. Okay. Let's see, we're moving on to old business. We are 6 minutes ahead of schedule, everybody.
Woo!
First ever. Okay, we have the consideration of minutes. We have the June 9th minutes. Did everyone have a chance to read the minutes from June 9th?
Yes.
Carrie, the only thing I'd say on the June 9th ones is the version that you all have on page 2, the full second paragraph, or actually it's the first full paragraph, there's a blank, and I think, is that the version that everyone has? Okay. I think what we can do is just knock out the sentence that says dumpsters and or shall be located within the blank area. I think we can just take that that portion out and then just go on with the stormwater operation. Because
It's in his letter anyway. It's reflected in his letter.
yeah.
Any is that, any comments on that? If we just remove that sentence?
Nope.
Okay, were there any other, that was my only note for this set of minutes. Did anybody have anything else for this set of minutes?
I just had a couple. On page 2, there was a sentence in the middle where it said Ms. Paretsky wanted some of the water to drain forward into the wetlands instead of off to the side. But I actually didn't ask for that. Mia did. So I just changed it to Ms. Paretsky wanted to know if the applicant met the recommendations Ms. McDonald had about the water draining forward into the wetlands instead of off to the side. Because I didn't ask it, Mia asked it, but I wanted to ask if. So it's just a quick change there. And I emailed these, but not till later today. And then on page 3, I just had a question with the first sentence. It says conservation has accepted the latest drainage design and they have proven that the proposed drainage pattern does not significantly alter the runoff heading towards the wetlands, which is what I just talked about. But I questioned that sentence only because conservation hadn't accepted it yet because they hadn't met yet. They didn't meet until last week. So I don't know if someone said it wrong or if it was just summarized incorrectly. So I just kind of wanted to check that. I didn't have time to go.
I can actually, I can tell you that, Amy, because I listened to, well, I had talked to Mia, not specifically about the set of minutes, but
Yeah.
I do recall this in that Dave Robinson was the one who, because he had met with Mia
Yeah.
and Mia had approved the drainage plan. So, or their latest drainage design. So, I mean, if you just want to change that to say the conservation agent has accepted the latest drainage design.
Okay. Yeah, as long as she did. I just knew that they hadn't met yet, the Conservation Committee.
And then Amy, you sent me what you wanted to change on page 2.
Yeah.
Because I didn't catch what you just said.
Right. I did. I just read it, but I did email it to you. And in that same paragraph, I also have a little insert where I did ask if the applicant would be open to a conservation restriction on the front parcel, and they were not. But I did ask that, so I just wanted it noted, and I emailed that to you too.
So did you include where you wanted that inserted?
Yep. Yeah, I used one of those little review buttons. Mm-hmm. And then in the next page, it was just in the middle of the paragraph. It said, will there be a double lane? Do they need for a left had turn? But I think it means hand turn. Like it just says hand versus had. It just says typo. And I have that in the minutes that I sent to you too.
Yeah, okay, I see that.
Yep. And then there's just one more, I think. Let's see. I'm on page 5 now, and it was about 400 Cedar Hill, the second paragraph. It said Ms. Paretsky asked if they had been before the ZBA, but I knew they hadn't. So I wonder if it was Michelle that said it and not me, but Michelle's not here tonight.
I think I said it.
Oh, Millie said it.
Yeah.
Ms. Milton asked if they had been before the ZBA.
This is in the second paragraph?
Page 5, second paragraph, first line. And I noted it in the email I sent you. Yep.
All right, so we'll change that to Milton.
Mhm.
And that was it.
Okay, were there any other amendments to the minutes? Would anyone like to make a motion to accept the minutes as amended?
I make a motion to accept the minutes from the June, is it June 9th?
June 9th.
Planning board meeting as amended.
For a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, motion, oh, sorry, roll call vote. Anthony,
Aye.
Millie,
Aye.
Amy,
I
and Carrie's an aye. So the motion passes, minutes are accepted. Did everyone have a chance to read the minutes from the 16th?
actually
Yes.
didn't.
No.
I haven't had time yet.
Okay, do we want to,
Do you mind if we just continue them?
I don't, is that okay with the board to continue to
Yeah.
the next meeting?
Continue.
Yes.
So we'll continue the next meeting. I did have an edit that it was listed that Mr. Martinek would be presenting at the town meeting, so he'll be interested to learn of his new presentation. Okay.
What page is that, Carrie? And I'll change that.
Oh, it was the very last page of the minutes.
Oh,
I
okay.
think one of the last pieces of it just said Mr. Martinek was presenting one of the motions. I do not want Mr. Martinek up at the podium, I'll tell you that. All right. Okay, great. So next on the agenda, we have A&Rs. So Kathy, I know you had a couple of A&Rs.
Yes, and so David's going to, because we just figured out that I can't share my screen, but David can share his screen as host. So there's two A&Rs. David, doesn't matter whichever one you want to pop up first. Okay, so this particular A&R, can everyone see that?
Yep.
Okay. So this particular A&R is for 125 Rice Ave. And actually the previous owner had put this A&R together, but he never submitted it. He talked about it, to staff about it, but then he ended up selling the property. And so the present owner, obviously the present owner, is who's bringing this, who submitted this A&R. So basically what they're doing is, I think everyone's familiar with this parcel. This is the one that's over, that's completely surrounded by conservation land. And this was the site of a ZBA application for a dog walking business, a home occupation. So what the present owners are doing is they want to divide off a house lot for themselves, and then the rest of the property they are labeling it as a non-buildable lot. So to beat you all to the punch, when people submit A&Rs, it's just very straightforward. They don't have to give a reason. There doesn't have to be, an explanation as to why they're doing it. On the Form A sheet itself, we do ask for an explanation, but it's not required by law. So in this particular case, they just wrote on their application that they just want to memorialize the property lines. So again, like I said, the previous owner was going to do this. He didn't, for whatever reason. And then the new property owner is submitting it. So when you look at an A&R, the only things that we can review is, and this is by state statute, is whether there is frontage and square footage. In this particular case, this is a very old, lot that predates zoning. So it doesn't have the required frontage, but it's that, the lot has existed for I don't know how many years, probably at least 60 or 70 that I'm aware of. And then but it does have, when, how they're creating it, the house lot itself has in excess of what is necessary for a residential lot in that particular zone.
Wait, so it doesn't have the frontage required for an A&R? I missed.
Well, the lot itself does, you see how it's a very, I don't know if I can you see my cursor?
No.
No? Okay. David, can we use your cursor?
Thing. Where are you pointing to?
I'm just actually, I just want to point to where it is on how it comes out onto Rice Ave. So it's the very point in the upper right hand corner. Yeah, so right there. That's where it touches Rice Ave. And that's how the lot was created prior to zoning existing in town. So it's a pre-existing lot. And so what they're, again, I don't know if it's for tax purposes, or I don't know why they're, wanting to split off the back portion. But it's labeled as a non-buildable lot because that absolutely does not have any frontage.
That was going to be my question. So now they're making the back lot so it's not really accessible, right? There's no frontage, and you just said that.
Correct. And it's still their property.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's unbuildable lot. I forget what they called the one downtown in the town common too. It was there was no access to it. I forget what they called it.
That what I know for tax purposes, or they labeled it as rear
Yeah.
Hill Street.
Yeah. But I forget what the term is. We use an open space a couple times where there's no access to it. So it's called, it's on the tip of my tongue. If you have no access, maybe it's called the unaccessible lot. I don't know. But it is
Landlocked.
a what?
Landlocked.
Landlocked, yes. So that's what that middle area is like, landlocked now if they break it off.
Yeah, I mean it's of no, I mean it's of no use to anybody but the present
No.
property owner.
Yeah. Okay. That was just.
Okay. Any other comments? All right.
All right. So if David, actually, well, you can either take a vote, because I know you know that's what you've started to do, Carrie. You can either just take a vote to, have one of you come in and sign it. I know I had just talked to you originally about, coming in maybe on Thursday, Carrie, to sign it.
Yeah.
So whether you want to take a vote on both A&Rs or take a vote on each A&R that,
Or why don't we just knock this one out? So does the motion need to be to authorize me to sign it, or to authorize the A&R, or?
No, it would be it could be to authorize you to sign it.
Okay. Okay, is there a motion to authorize me to sign for the A&R?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? I'll do a roll call. Anthony?
Aye.
Lily?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
And Carrie's an aye. Okay, that's for 125 Rice.
Okay, and then David, if you could, thank you. So this A&R is for 30 Barefoot Road, which is presently, an existing lot with a building on it. The building is presently vacant, and I believe that they're, however this works in the commercial industrial brokers world, is there is, a lease that's running out on the property. And then, and I don't know when that lease runs out, but we have talked to a company that has purchased the property, and they will be looking for a new tenant at some point. But in this particular case, what they're doing, so like I said, it is a vacant building, but what they're doing is combining 3 lots into one lot. So the main portion of the lot where you see the building that it's called Lot A, I believe, right there. So that's actually has the address of 30 Barefoot Road, and that is about 7.5 acres. And then David, if you could just go up to the left, right there. So that lot is about half an acre. And that also has an address of 30 Barefoot Road. And then over to the right, I should be using north and south, but that lot, nope, one more over. So that lot also has an address of 30 Barefoot Road, but I think they're known as like 30 rear and 30 side or something. So what they're doing is combining those three parcels into one lot, which will collectively be known as 30 Barefoot Road.
Any questions or comments on that?
No.
Okay, is there a motion to authorize me to sign for this A&R, for the 30 Barefoot Road A&R?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, Anthony,
Aye.
Molly,
Aye.
Amy,
Aye.
carries an aye. Motion passes. Okay, so the A&Rs are covered. Any lot releases or bonds?
No lot releases or bonds, but I just wanted to mention on your upcoming agenda, your next meeting is July 21st, and 400 Cedar Hill Street was continued to that meeting. And in anticipation, this is a little unique, but I think, based on your conversation with them at the public hearing, they have moved ahead and they have filed a revised application, which either went out in the mail to you today or it'll go out tomorrow. I'm not sure when Debbie sent that or will be sending it. But anyways, they submitted in anticipation of a town meeting vote.
Mhm.
So they revised their application to now apply for a special permit for the um, excuse me, not a special permit for the indoor use, because that's what, if town meeting goes according to plan, that's what will be allowed. But the outdoor recreation needs a special permit in accordance with the zoning bylaw. So they applied for a special permit for the outdoor portion of their use. And then now that, well, anticipating that the use of the indoor will be allowed, they also applied for a special permit for groundwater. And they didn't originally because of the Dover Amendment filing. So that is being added into your, it was actually, I had the time to advertise it so that on your agenda on the 21st, it'll appear as a public hearing now.
Okay,
And of course, this could all change based on town meeting, but I mean, that's their anticipation.
do they need to withdraw their original one without prejudice or anything, or they don't just revise?
What they did was they sent in a revised application. So it's all part of the same application.
Will
So I just-
groundwater trying to meet before planning board, or
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, what, Amy?
will the groundwater committee try to meet before planning board, or you don't know?
I think so. I think Fred said that you all kept a night open the 14th.
Yeah, but there was nothing on it, so he's just said to be ready just in
Yeah.
case.
So this came in. So
Okay.
again, he's back in the office on Thursday.
Yeah.
But and this is also the design review meeting that I will need to schedule. I mean, on one hand, they're pretty far along in their whole process.
Right.
So I don't, really think anyone's going to go back and have this start from scratch, but we do need to have design review and groundwater meet.
Okay, great.
That was it for me,
So
Carrie.
what else
I
do we
just
have
wanted to
on
mention that.
What else do we have on this agenda? Do we have,
On the 21st,
yeah,
you have 400 Cedar Hill Street and the continued public hearing for the common driveway on 222 West Main. So both of those are scheduled or were continued to 6 o'clock. But at 5:30 that evening, we're having an executive session with town council. And the two topics that you wanted to talk about were, the litigation with 222 West Main Street and 425 Whitney Street.
no litigation for 425 Whitney Street.
Well, there is the ZBA. Someone has appealed the ZBA
Yes.
decision,
Okay.
and
Yes,
we had talked. Yeah, we had talked about this. I mean, the board had raised questions, and we had gotten information from town council, but given that there's pending litigation, can it move through other boards? And the response from town council was yes, it can, but you wanted to talk to town council. So he is available, Dave Dineski, the same gentleman that was at your last meeting.
Okay, and Zero Bartlett's not on the agenda?
No, Zero Bartlett, I honestly can't remember why, but Zero Bartlett was continued to your August meeting, your first meeting in August.
Okay.
Unless I'm mistaken about that, but I think that's, let me
I
look
remember
again.
Steris was the first meeting in August, but I can't remember Bartlett.
Let me,
Let's say that was like the 14th.
let's see, Steris, yeah, Steris is August 4th. Oh, so maybe, yeah, I mean, obviously I haven't posted the meeting yet, but I'm just going through your minutes, I'm sorry.
While you're looking at that, one thing that I wanted to put on the agenda when Michelle's here is, just take a look at, we're doing this late because we just had elections, but if we wanted to talk about what our goals are for the upcoming year, similar to what we did last year.
Mhm.
And then I also wanted to talk to the board about, we have these meetings and they're so long. So I'm wondering, do we want to try to do something where one meeting we dedicate to applicants and one meeting we just dedicate to business? Like tonight, it's refreshing to have a meeting where we can this will be quick, we can take care of some business, and we're not trying to scramble it in at 9:30. Oh my goodness, let's get in, the last 10 minutes we're trying to get to do, complete the business of the board. So I'd like Michelle to weigh in on that too.
Mhm.
So maybe at the next meeting or so.
And 0 Bartlett Street is on the July 21st agenda. It was continued to July 21st.
Okay. So something for discussion. I don't know, any initial thoughts on that or?
I think it's a great idea. Like tonight was nice to get things done that we, like you said, we're squeezing in 10, 11 o'clock.
And Kathy, when we can talk about this more, in terms of like obviously you don't control when you get applications or not. Has the board ever tried to do like one meeting dedicated to applications, one meeting dedicated to board business? And I mean, right now we're kind of clearing out a backlog with COVID, but
No, not in my recollection. Basically, what we tell everybody on all the land use boards, I mean, conservation, ZBA, and planning board, is that if you get your application in a month in advance, of the meeting, because sometimes the planning board fluctuates with their schedule. Although I think now with the licenses for how we do these meetings, there's not going to be that much flexibility because there's only that one license. So, but again, that's okay. I mean, sticking to the first and the third, Tuesdays. But historically, what we have told applicants is, if you get your application in a month in advance, you'll be heard, within, in 30 days. So if you if the board wants to change that, I mean, we'll have to, change that schedule accordingly.
Do you have a lot of applicants meeting with you that you see on the back burner that will be coming up this fall? Like, do you foresee like Zero Bartlett, Steris, and they were all big ones. But after they're done, do you foresee anything else coming down the pipe?
I'm not aware of any right now for planning board. ZBA has a few actually, that have been kicking around, that I think are coming, for the August, possibly even September meeting. But I'm not aware of anyone. Bob, can you think of anyone? I can't.
I can't think of anything that would be really of any size or of note to
Yeah.
speak of.
Yeah. So it may not be an issue if we want, if the board wants to do that, Carrie, or try that out or something, I mean,
Yeah,
again, we can.
I don't know. I just feel like our meetings, they're obviously so long and action packed, and it's a lot of prep for staff. It's a lot of prep for board members, and it always feels there's so much, not stress, but there's a lot to it. That I wonder if
Mhm.
I don't know, just to think about.
I also just wanted to just to let everyone know the RFQ, the request for qualifications, was issued for the 425 Whitney Street project. So that was sent out to a couple of specific consultants that I was able to find, and then it was also it's posted on the town's webpage, and then I have circulated it because I think I anticipate that it's probably going to be two consultants that are probably going to have to be chosen, one on the very specific like radiation, the operation itself, and then the site plan review, which there's numerous engineering companies in this area that could do that. So I don't have any responses yet. It went out last week, but I anticipate that, and I'll keep obviously keep you posted on that.
Okay. All right, great. I think that's it. Anything else before we close? Okay. Is there a motion to close the meeting?
I make a motion, we adjourn the meeting.
Second,
Okay, and all in favor, Anthony,
Aye.
Lori,
aye.
Amy,
Bye.
and Carrie's an aye. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Night.
Later.